It's interesting that in some ways, the more money I've made over the last few years, the more I become driven by those things.
By money or by something else?
By money.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. So like, because the money has a feedback loop to all of the core issues. So worth, safety, perfection, and needs. And then also, and so, there's triggering around money and what that does, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. Like, in other words, it's like assessing if there's something that there's a block there, like where the money is too important or too impactful on worth or on making you feel safe or on your perfection or on what you need. But money amplifies everything. And as a result, it attracts a lot of attention, not just from other people, but to yourself. So it amplifies everything, those things and those core issues. And then it kind of has a resonance. And so then you focus more on it. So I'm being a little woo-woo, but not really. It takes on like an amplification in your life. But there is a direct feedback loop to what the money provides and how that's triggering. So it can be in good ways, but it can also be in ways where it's like, oh, I got to get more attention that this money provides, or I need more safety that it provides.
Yeah.
And everybody has, so like, basically that is stuff I'm talking about is in relationship to money. So that's like your relationship to money. And so ways that it makes me feel defective, maybe it's earning it or spending it or saving it or whatever. Ways that makes me feel perfect or better than. There's a lot of better than usually associated with money, especially when there's a nice role going on with it. But then safety is huge with money. Like, and it's not just because that's one of the ways that I feel safe, but that's the driver. Originally, that was the driver for me to make money and make a lot of money, was the safety aspect. So feeling very emotionally unsafe, and in my case, somewhat physically unsafe. And then the money provides a buffer. And so then it becomes, well, how much buffer do I need? How much buffer do I want? How much is, if this is necessary? So that's just like some talk about it and some ways to start thinking about it. But, you looking at your relationship to money is super helpful because it is related to how you spend your time and then what you choose to work on.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of needlessness going on, not around money necessarily, but maybe a little bit. So there's something in the needless area, but also needless to work.
I definitely react sometimes to being like, oh, well, I don't need to do any of that. Like, I'll just go surf. I already got a good life.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the thing is it doesn't mean that means like you're all kinds of triggered, but that is a needless response. Mm-hmm. And so what you want to do is correct that so that your adult can assess. Because most people that are financially well, and or if they have a lot of money or they're fine, there's lots of money in the bank or whatever, you move into a place of, well, I don't really have to do that anymore. I don't have to work as hard or do whatever. And maybe you don't, but you want your adult to assess that, because the realities is that money, you need more money as you age anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you may not be assessing it very well at this age based on how old you're going to get.
Yeah.
What if the opportunities aren't there whenever you're in your 50s and 60s? Or what if they are, but you have some health thing going on? Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to freak you out. I'm just saying, like,
that's part of the reason when I'm sometimes like, oh, I got to earn more now.
And there's some evidence of that being prudent. Like, that can be an adult thought. There's also, and then it doesn't have to all be about money. It can also be opportunity is provided to you to grow and expand in different ways. And so how can I take advantage of opportunities, an opportunity period, to express myself and get paid? That's a very adult way of thinking, frankly. Like, how can I make money, but maybe it doesn't have to be the point. Maybe there's like this new thing I can learn or way to express myself. And you know what? Maybe I can charge for that. Mm-hmm. And so that's just kind of a cooler, more fun way. Like, when you're not meeting all the basic needs anymore, it's kind of like, well, what can I do and what would that look like? And you can get excited about different projects or things. I think your teen is a little bit like, we're just going to stay right here. And I think that that's something you should look at. And you can look at it in regards to money. You could also look at it in your relationship to how you use your time.
I think they're definitely related because I think my teen comes in and he says, "You're very comfortable right now, but you may have to, you may not be cut out to get to the next level unless you break your back doing it.
And
So
there's so why what?
why even try? Or
Yeah,
why do you do that?"
so why even try is probably more of a needlessness around money, but it could be a closed around how you spend your time. So I mean, you probably should map out your relationship to money and just kind of see what's there.
Okay.
And then be like, oh, if it's all full, like there's all this shit in there, which I mean, and I can help you to map it out better. But if it's all full, then it's like, oh, okay, there's a body of work here I need to look at. There's always going to be a link to how you spend your time. And there is an element to going to the next level that requires you to do what other people are not willing to do. So and I don't care who you're talking to, I don't care about what people say about like, oh, you don't have to work hard. That's a bunch of bullshit. You have to get to a certain place. And then what am I willing to do that no one else is willing to do? How can I be smart about it? Because I have all this experience and I'm older now and all that stuff. But I'm going to have to do what other people are not willing to do. You just have to learn how to deal with that. Like that's a part of how you get to the next level, whatever that means to you. So you're making $500,000 a year and you're like, I want to make $1 million a year. That's a bigger jump than people think. The jump between 250 and 500 is huge of consistent income. Like you have to work so much harder. And then it's like, okay, 500 to $1 million. Once you get to $1 million a year, there's just so much opportunity that it does change. Like you have to be willing to do other things, but it's more on your schedule.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you have to work hard, but it doesn't mean you have to break your back. It's not like you're just starting out. You know what I mean? So I would look at money and then under there, like put that needless in there of I'm good where I am, or I don't need to really do anything else. Because your team is definitely trying to keep you safe from maybe putting yourself out there in different ways or working harder. Not because you're supposed to work hard, like in this teeny, judgmental, parental, patriarch type way, but like, I think that your teen's involved with kind of what you do or don't do. But at the same time, the main thing is that your adult is the one that's assessing it. Because you do have a good life, Dan, and you have a lifestyle figured out. You live where you want to live. You make money, you do your thing. So it doesn't mean that you're supposed to always be making money, but your adult has to decide.
Yeah.
And then what a lot of people do is they also build in some tethering. So they take on a large mortgage, they get into debt in other ways, et cetera, and then they're kind of forced to do some things. I'm guilty of that at different times in my life. And some of it's been teen driven. There's a part of me that likes it, the intensity of it. I'm just being honest with you. So it's kind of like, you just have to decide for yourself what works and what doesn't, how much you're willing to rely on exterior motivations like debt and or business arrangements with other people, levels of responsibility to then meet financial goals. Ideally, it's more driven from within. Like it's like, how can I express myself? I'm good. I don't have all this stuff. What I do is I will take on debt and then pay it off. But I recognize I'm taking on debt for no reason. And so it's like a team thing that I do to motivate me. I'm not telling you it's the best. I'm just being honest with you about my own kind of relationship to money and work and all of those things. So hopefully some of that is helpful.
Yeah, that's incredibly helpful.
Okay, good. And so do something with it and kind of go, okay, where am I in this relationship to money thing?
Yeah, I think that my main stumbling block was I was just having trouble piecing apart whether that's two issues in building time management or money. But yeah, I think you've just cleared it up that I probably got to start with the money because everything kind of tumbles out of that.
I would, for sure. Okay, good. Lynn, do you have anything to add to what we were talking about?
Gosh, yeah. I didn't do hardly anything for 9 years to where it was pretty, really depressing. And I don't know what we exactly we had to look at and clear out to get me going, Brent. But
well, it started with your schedule. Do you remember a long time ago when I was like, you can't just lay around?
Yeah. So okay. So for my dad was almost like autistic in terms of schedule. Like if he didn't put on the exact sock at the exact time of day in the right order, then his whole wires would cross. So I was just like, fuck that. I will not ever have a routine or do anything. Like I totally rebelled against any form of like scheduled responsibility. So yeah, clearing that out was huge for me.
That was kind of the first step though. Like
Yeah.
there was a larger thing, but yeah. But I mean, how do you feel about making money now if you don't need the money? Where are you with it?
Um, I've shifted to where I'm like, if I make a lot of money, I can have a big impact on the world, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can give back or start a healing center, or like that's how I've shifted it in my mind.
Yeah. And so that's more purpose driven and passion oriented. So those are, so what Lynn's talking about, those are usually adult versions, not just because they sound nice. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to give to the world. But like, that's like something that's really real for him. So that's
Yeah,
more of an
and
adult
it like
motivation.
brings meaning to my life. Like I feel it. It's just way more important than anything else.
Mm-hmm. And so the initial money that you had resulted in meaningless.
Right.
And then it's about, okay, a journey of, okay, how can I still have money and maybe even make more and it be meaningful?
Right.
So anyway, that's just like another like layer or level. And I appreciate you talking about it, Lynn, because it's something that I know you think about and that we've talked about too.
Yeah,
Brent,
thank
how
you.
do you find that?
What?
How do you find that? Like, Lynn was talking about, the meaning and the passion and all that. And is that just something that comes with time?
It's a little bit of time and also meeting a basic level of need financially, and also looking at what you're doing and not doing. So like, in other words, cleaning out blocks around work, cleaning out blocks around money. And then you kind of start moving into more of this thinking. So there is some time stuff that's in there, but it also is by looking at the ways that you make money and don't, and whether it's really feeding you or not. Because when it's just to pay bills, you're only going to arrive to a certain level of things. But maybe that's necessary for a while. Most people don't move into this idea of generativity or like following my passions until they have some basic level of understanding of what their passions might even be. So it's like exploring what your passions aren't. Like you can't, there's like stuff and people that basically preach this idea of you got to find your passions and then build everything around that. And they're teaching that to 22-year-olds. You don't have enough experience yet. And so basically it's like, no, what do I do that I hate? And so I don't want to do that shit anymore. What do I do that I like? Oh, I want to focus on that more. And you kind of start arriving through time, like a real career is built over time. You kind of arrive at time over what am I passionate about? What are the things I think about a lot? That can reveal your passions even at a very young age. What do I spend my time thinking about? That's non-triggered. And then another avenue into passions is how it impacts other people. And that is specifically what Lynn is mentioning for himself. So basically, but you can ask yourself, like, how I impact others is kind of a beeline into passion. Not because you're just supposed to be nice and like your work's supposed to impact people, blah, 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 blah. And everybody has to have this huge impact on the world. But things that have impact on others, people get kind of naturally, there's like this benevolent part of humans where that excites them. Unless they're like, sociopathic, which does exist and is more a part of corporate stuff that goes on, where it's not about that, but that's a passionless perspective anyway. There's no capability to experience passion whenever you have sociopathy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I've just spent so much time and effort chasing money that now that I've achieved some sort of success to where I don't really have to not worry, but it's like if I make the same amount that I make this year, every single year, I can live a pretty decent life. And now it's just a question of like, what now?
Yeah. Well,
So,
and making sure that, so I think that's like moving into what we're talking about, more of a growth mindset.
yeah.
Like what have I learned and what can I sell from what I've learned? No, I'm not kidding, but it sounds funny. But it's like, what have I learned, and then what can I sell here? Where's my skill set, and what can I pull from to then put together as I grow? You know, like I'm literally right now working on know your customer stuff. It's marketing research stuff through the lens of my method. It's because I've been hanging out with all you people too long, and like basically it's like in there. And I'm not kidding, I'm gonna sell the shit out of that. Like, and it's something I'm building on the side that's interesting and fun to drive customer revenue. So I'm not doing a plug, I'm telling you, like, what? Like, that's not something I ever thought of, but I'm fascinated by it, and I'm really enjoying all this like building marketing stuff, you know? And then when it's ready and I have some test cases, I'm gonna sell it. And so that's like me growing as a person, and then also being a businessman and being like, oh, that's valuable to people. They'll buy that, and that'll buy a nice beach house. Stuff like that. We kind of start, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like
Makes
there's
sense.
like a natural, if you're not progressing towards your potential, there's like a natural little bit of angst that you'll kind of feel.
Mm.
And you can almost just by paying attention to that kind of move yourself forward.
Mm-hmm.
It just sort of builds up. And that makes
like where it's not the right fit.
Or like I mean, like I'm making the same amount every year and just coasting along. There'll be something that kind of starts eating at you that you could be growing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes you'll pull in something in a universal way that messes that up. Like, you know, I'm a little woo about stuff, and I think that sometimes you just get like a message that you shouldn't be moving in that direction anymore. Like kind of being able to go with the flow of events is another way to think of it. Like you've got it all set up and you're like, I'm moving this way and I make this much money and I'm doing my thing. And then you don't make that much money one year. Or whatever happens, some crisis occurs in a way at whatever level. And then you're forced to pivot. You're forced to learn a new skill, think of things differently. That sometimes can happen too. But I think that's on purpose. Like I think that actually we create that kind of energetically, like we kind of create that situation. And you don't have to do it that way. What's better is to kind of get ahead of things and have a growth mindset and move forward with your skills and learn new stuff and build projects and get creative with how you make money. But I think the universe has a way of pulling you and pushing you in certain directions too if you don't do what you're supposed to do. And that's a whole other conversation. You don't ever have to believe that, but that's just the way that I really think. And I believe that very much. You know, everybody has a little path. And you need to, and there's a way that things happen outside that push you along in your path. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable. So the idea is to get out ahead of it a little bit, you know, by being better aligned and kind of thinking about your work in different ways, creating.